Anybody who's a real sci-fi nerd has probably dreamed at some point or another of stepping into Captain Picard's shoes and leading a ragtag team of scientists, warriors, doctors and expendable meat puppets into the great unknown. Fugitive Games' space exploration roguelike Into the Stars, which is now available in Steam Early Access, is an attempt to recreate that exact feeling. It's the Oregon Trail in space basically, only your brave frontiersmen and women will be getting plasma gunned into pieces by alien troopers instead of dying from dysentery. The first thing you'll notice upon jumping into a game is just how incredible the galaxy looks. Rather than opting for simple, often abstracted visuals in the style of FTL, the team at Fugitive has employed the power of the Unreal 4 engine to impressive effect. Walls of superheated gas flicker at the edges of a star, while light glistens off the surface of a frozen planet. It's really something. Combined with Jack Wall's beautiful restrained score, there's a real wonder to exploration that encourages you to push on, not just because you have a mission to accomplish, but because you want to see what's out there. And yes, your mission. Humanity has inconveniently been blown up by a vicious species of aliens known as the Scorn, and it's your task to ferry a ship full of survivors across the galaxy in an attempt to find a new home. That's pretty much it in terms of plot, at least for the first few hours of the game. The developers are clearly happy to let you get on with things, and there's plenty to keep you occupied in the meantime. At the start of the game you'll choose a crew and various systems for your vessel. It's a little confusing actually, you're given a huge range of options to choose from, and from the off it's hard to work out exactly where you should spend your limited supply of credits. What is more important, cargo space or a slightly more powerful laser cannon? What in God's name do I do with all this magnesium? After a few hideous failures you'll start to work out what to prioritise, but I still feel the game could do with some kind of auto setup feature, which would allow the tinkerers out there to still indulge themselves while making starting out on a new journey faster and simpler for everyone else. As a roguelike, death is expected in Into the Stars, and it's a bit of a hassle to have to select from the same option screen every time you want to start a new run. Once you are out in the black, you've basically got an empty map and your own instincts to guide you. The Scorn are following closely behind, which means you only have a limited time to explore each new sector you enter, grab resources to replenish your dwindling stocks, and perhaps trade and negotiate with any other aliens you encounter. There's not quite the relentless push of FTL where you can see a direct visual representation of how near you are to being hunted down, but there's still a deadly impetus behind all your actions. Sometimes getting caught is inevitable, at which point you'll settle back into your captain's chair, legs spread brazenly like Kirk himself, and take on your enemy. Battles are timer-based affairs. Each of your ship's systems, shields, lasers, torpedoes and so on, takes time to recharge, so you'll only want to raise the forward deflectors for example when the enemy vessel is about to fire. Miss time an attack or a defensive block and your ship can be horrifically damaged. Civilians will be obliterated and vital systems like air circulation or even the shields themselves can be knocked offline. The combat system doesn't have the depth of something like FTL, but it's a decent nod towards those famous Star Trek battle scenes where the ship is shaking and you're desperately waiting for the perfect moment to strike. With a bit more variation in weapon types and maybe a few more tricks for commanders to employ, it could be very effective. When your oxygen supply does run low, you'll have no choice but to search the nearest planet for supplies. Head into orbit and you'll be given the choice of 3 different ground missions. Shuttle missions are more exploration focused and allow you to search the planet for intelligent life or hidden secret. These missions tend to be more dangerous but carry a greater potential for rewards. Early on, for example, I found a new laser cannon on one trip which caused me to become inadvisably cocky, and this led to a swift death in the next combat. Mining and resource missions meanwhile only take 1 crew member to accomplish, as opposed to a full squad, and will net you valuable resources. Death is always a real possibility, whether you're attempting to barter with a race of homicidal insects or trying to drain magnesium out of an asteroid. Each mission has a probability of success, but sometimes you'll just have to roll the hard 6, in the words of Admiral Billadama, who is very much my inspiration, and hope you get lucky enough to survive. Then it's onwards once more into deep space. While you travel you'll have to deal with a number of crises, from rats in the supplies on board to full-on rebellions. Your heroic crew can respond to these threats and will perform more efficiently depending on how their skills match up against the challenge. Talented engineers, for example, will obviously be more useful fixing a broken oxygen pump than subduing the proletariat. These onboard developments don't quite carry the same weight as ground missions though, which is a bit of a shame. I'd prefer some more choices and tough decisions on ship, rather than what happens, which is normally simply waiting for a timer to tick down to tell you whether you've succeeded or not. In fact, that's my main concern with Into the Stars as it currently stands. The galaxy is a undoubtedly beautiful place to explore, and there are some solid mechanics in place here, but there is just a slight lack of character that sits at odds with the gorgeous visual design and beautiful soundtrack. I just don't feel that connected to my ship or my crew, which is a bit of a problem in a game about making tough choices and potentially seeing your loyal subjects blown into atoms. In something like FTL, for example, I see my brave space explorers charging around the ship, putting out fires and fending off giant mantis creatures with their sidearms. I see them in peril and I feel a direct attachment to their survival as a result. Into the Stars just doesn't forge that same connection at present, because my crew are basically just floating portraits who I occasionally order off to fix the water pumps. I think a solution to this would be to have some kind of personality system brought across through conversations and special events. My hotshot pilot might cause problems during a ground mission by insulting the enemy, for example, or I might be able to sacrifice a brave, loyal commander in order to bring his whole crew back alive. On-ship missions could also throw up more moral choices and tough decisions. Maybe I could potentially lose a hefty number of civilians to ensure a valued engineer's survival. Certainly Into the Stars looks the part, but it's missing that bond between the player and his crew. This isn't an insurmountable problem, and there's plenty of time for Fugitive to set it right. If they manage to do so, the game could switch from being an enjoyable but slightly cold space roguelike to a really great one. For more reviews, previews and other content from GameWatcher, please subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us on Twitter and at GameWatcher.com.
Your orders, Captain. Determine remote pilot. Good conditions. Resource probe away. Scorn attack imminent, Captain. New resources available.